Hello and welcome to ACS Golf and this week's review. Now, this week we are looking at a driver specifically from 2022. Now, if you're new to this channel, the whole point is basically me going out, finding clubs that I think are a great deal for you guys. That can either be from eBay, Facebook Marketplace, golf shops, etc., where they could be brand new or they could be older clubs. And I test them for you guys, give them a review, and say if they're worth getting. We're not from the idea of a mid to high handicapper. Currently playing at 17 with a very dodgy swing. You will see that in a second. Now, if you watched my channel before, you know that I've looked at quite a few drivers from 2022. So last year I've looked at the Cobra LTDX, which, there it is the current driver in my bag. Stiff shaft, 10.5 degrees. Love it, absolute monster. I've looked at the Honda 757S, which is actually currently behind me at the moment. Now, that is actually their 2023 model still, even though it's 2022. And I've also looked at Mizuno STG 220, sorry. These are all drivers from 2022 that you can pick up for under £200. And I just think they're great bargains. And that's under, $250 for anyone watching over in America. So, which I think are great bargains. Now, finally, so I've wanted to try this club for ages. I've managed to find another 2022 driver. Obviously, you know what that is already because you clicked on this video, and it's the Stealth. Finally managed to pick one of these bad boys up for under £200. So under $250 precisely. If I just have a look, I got it for £196, including delivery, which was $246. So there you go. Finally managed to pick one of these up because I've always wanted to try them because I just think they look really cool and obviously completely different from anything out there at the moment with that carbon face, which they continued into Stealth 2 this year. Now I managed to pick it up 12 degrees, just the Stealth. So this is the middle range and with a regular Ventus black shaft, I believe it is, which, normally is stiff for me, but really happy just to get it for the price. So with any further ado, let's have a closer look at the club as normal. Then I'll talk about all the technology regarding it. Then we'll get down to the range and also some course footage for you as well, because I have, because for me, Taylormade, this is a big club for 2022. I've actually had this in the bag quite a while over the past couple of weeks to really test it. And then afterwards, we'll discuss the performance of it, if I think it's going to go in my bag and replace my Cobra. And also we'll go into the details of the ACS golf scale, where we'll look at the distance, feel, looks, price, forgiveness. I've done over 30 videos now, and you'd think I'd remember my own scale. So there we go. So let's have a closer look at the club. So there you go, closer look at the club. Now, personally for me, I love the black and red. I really do. The new Stealth this year, I think it's a bit more redder, isn't it? It's a brighter red. Personally, I prefer the darker red. But yeah, it's beautiful. I don't know if you can see it in there. There you go, Stealth. I love that stencil on the top of the club. Now, let's get into technology about this. But firstly, just talk about the different models. So there was 3 models that they brought out. You had the Stealth Plus, which was a sort of low spin bomber. We had a movable weight at the front, obviously more weight at the front of the club. The idea that the ball will spin low and therefore go further. Obviously, if you're a faster swinger, basically with the club, obviously, if you're not, then low spin can equal no distance and falls out the sky. And then you had this one, just the Stealth, which sort of middle range, was sort of mid to low spin and a higher launch. And then you had the Stealth HD. I want to say HD. Let me just double check that. HD, there you go, which is a high draw, which is their most forgiving model, with the idea that obviously it's also got a draw bias on it. Now, for me personally, with the way I swing it, the Stealth in the middle is definitely the perfect club for me, I feel, to pick up. So really happy with that. Now, let's get into the technology, which specifically I have got from Taylormade's website itself, and I will talk you through it rather than me try and remember off the top of my head, because I'll most likely get everything wrong. So here we go. So obviously we have the 60 times carbon twisted face. So majority of obviously faces are titanium or maybe titanium mix. And this is the first time the club's come out with a carbon face. Obviously, we know all about drivers having obviously carbon in them with a carbon crown like here with the Taylormade. Obviously, I've got a carbon crown here with the Cobra. Also got carbon on the bottom as well. The new Paradigm Callaway has a whole carbon shell. So carbon in clubs, in drivers, has been around for a good few years. It's not a new thing, but for carbon face, is. So 60 times carbon face, basically the idea is just 60 layers of carbon all put on there. Now, going further into technology, we've got a nanotexture cover. So this is over the carbon. So the 20-year journey to change the face of golf was made possible by this innovative nanotexture cover, which creates a face texture needed to produce the ideal amount of friction at impact. Without it, the carbon surface would be too smooth and couldn't generate ideal performance in wet conditions. The polyurethane material that forms a nanotexture cover is used to optimize launch properties, rain or shine. And that's why if you actually ever have a stealth or test a stealth, the face actually feels quite rough, which is quite a new feeling really. I mean, obviously I say that. I use the Cobra, and obviously you got the milled face, which they've taken out this year, actually, the new one. So that does feel rough. But your normal driver, normally generally, across the ball ping, tightness, etc., doesn't feel rough. So it's quite an interesting thing there. Now you have the asymmetric inertia generator. So asymmetric inertia generator produced a revolutionary shape that inspired the entire sim driver lineup. It remains a foundational source of refined aerodynamics properties with stealth. It results in a slippery, fast head shape that aids in swing speed generation at the most critical phase of the downswing, just before impact. It also comes with the added benefit of enhanced forgiveness due to extra weight positioned low and back. And there you have the extra weight there. And this shape is very much like the previous generation, like the Sim. So obviously the Sim, maybe that bit there was a little bit thinner, but I mean, let's be honest, if you put that against the Sim 2 on the bottom, I don't think you'd really notice the difference, to be fair. Very, very similar on the bottom. They've really kept that going for the past couple of years, TaylorMade. So there you go. Now we have the through slot speed pocket. Speed pocket is a timeless tailor-made technology. It's evolved over the years into what is now our most flexible design, engineered to maximize ball speeds and produce additional forgiveness on low surfaces. And here you go, speed pocket, being in the clubs for years, I think from like M2 days, which was 2016. So I always had that speed pocket with the idea you get more flexibility in the bottom of the club, so low hits, you get more forgiveness and you don't have that drop in ball speed. A lot of clubs nowadays have similar things around here. Cobra put a bar across there. I think Mizuno have as well. So Cobra's a bit like a jailbreak system. So there you go. And then we have premium sound, which we know that sound would make a big question mark for a lot of golfers. Historically, carbon face drivers have sounded bad. The carbon face have happened before. I didn't realize that, but I think years ago, years and years and years ago, well before my time of getting into golf. Like really bad. Armed with information, our team of engineers obsessed over creating a perfect pitch with stealth. They use a combination of curvature, shape, and internal stiffening ribs to finely tune acoustics, delivering a sound profile that is both bright and powerful to match tailor-made drivers through the years. And that's the thing, and that's one big thing, let's be honest, when we look at drivers and we try new drivers, is the sound. If we don't like the sound, you don't really get it. I mean, the Cobra, I keep on going back to the Cobra, but Cobra has a nice real whack to it. And this sound you'll hear when we're at the range in the footage in a second is a bit more muted. I don't know how I feel about sound. I don't mind it, but I'm a bit more loud. I like a bit more of a loud noise personally for myself. So I like that whack noise that Cobra does. So there you go. Now, finally, just quickly going into it, the idea of the stealth between this and the Stealth Plus is the fact that they've increased 15% more MOI in this club. So MOI, so it's more forgiveness there. And the idea is 200 to 300 more, obviously, RPMs of spin as well. So the idea that it spins a little bit more, again, to aid more forgiveness. So, you know, this cub really was that sort of in the middle ground that's going to give you distance, but also some forgiveness. So there you go. Now, there's all the technology. Obviously, with Taylormade, just quickly go onto it. Always got great shafts. I'm a massive fan of Ventus. I've had Ventus shafts in quite a few of my clubs, but stiff, not normally regular. And I'm a big fan of these. So let's now discuss. Let's get to the range. Sorry, we'll go for the numbers, and then we'll come back into my studio and we'll discuss basically what I think of the club and go for the ACS golf scale. A couple of shots for you guys from me on the course at Sutton Green and also down the range in a second. Now, let's get straight into those figures. So what I would expect from my driver, for my Cobra, is about 260 total yards average and ball speed around 150 miles per hour. With the Taylormade, I did de-loft it because it's normally 12 degrees, but I lofted it down to 10 degrees with this current model because I wanted it closer to my Cobra, which is 10.5 degrees. Now, straight into the figures. So, on average, total carry was 250 yards, total distance was 243 yards, ball speed 148, launch angle 10, and height 64 feet. Now, for me, that is a bit short. I did get one up to 254 yards, so just short of that 260. And I had a few over that 150 mark. I think my fastest was 152 miles per hour ball speed. So there was progress there, but I think with that regular shaft, I didn't really go for it as I normally would because obviously I'm aware that, you know, really go for it, I can possibly slice the ball quite a bit. But however, I will say the accuracy of this club was great. Sutton Green, when I've taken it out, I've hit in fairway after fairway after fairway. And also at the range itself, I had 63% of consistency with it, which is great for a longer club. So happy with that. So there you go. There we have it. Stealth. There's the testing for myself. Now, one thing I will say, and I mentioned it already, 63% basically consistency with this, with a driver for me anyway at the range, was perfect. Like, really happy with that. Really happy with the fairways that I hit as well. It's just really consistent club. Now, obviously, with the regular shaft, maybe that's why, but to have the average distance, around that 243 mark total yards. I know I did manage to get one at 254. It's a little bit short of sort of that 260 range, between like sort of 250 up to 260 range that I look for and I get with my Cobra. Ball speed, 148 ball speed, absolutely fine. Normally looking around that 150 mark, so 148, happy with that. I did get that 152, so. And I've before tested it on a very windy day and I was getting around 152 again, ball speed. So happy with the ball speed. It's just the distance. Now that could be down to the regular shaft. So I might get a stiff and maybe do a test and see how much that differs. But for me and my very downward swing, even for my very downward swing, sorry, it is a little bit shorter than I would expect. So there you go. Now, let's get into this ACS golf scale. Sorry, Adam was my first name. ACS golf scale. Now, first things first, distance. So I go in at a 3.5. I think the distance is good. I think I could probably tweak this and get even more distance. Like I said, my swing is very down. I really do cut the angle. So maybe perhaps, this is a 12-degree head. Maybe if I loft it up to 12 degrees, I could get even more distance. But I wanted it more similar to my Cobra for this test, which I have at 10.5. So that's why I had it down at 10 degrees for the test. So there you go. So 3.5, obviously this isn't their longest model. Their longest model is the Stealth Plus. Obviously, if you look at all the reviews from last year, the Stealth Plus was one of the longest out there, but you sacrifice the forgiveness. So I'm not really surprised with 3.5. I was hoping it's going to be more closer to the LTDX, so to be that shorter, not great, but not the end of the world. I think if I got a stiff shaft, then I definitely think I could get a bit better. So that's why I said 3.5 distance. Nothing to shy about. Very good, solid result there. Now, on to feel. So, feel I've given 2 out of 5. And the reason is personally for me, in the carbon face, I really struggled to know where my bad hits were coming from. I knew if I hit it bad, but I just didn't know where. I didn't know if it's off the bottom. I didn't know if it's off the corner. So I struggled with that. So that's why I'm giving it a 2 out of 5. Someone might love the feel of this club, might completely disagree with me, but for me, not the great feeling with the carbon. I definitely prefer the normal type clubs. You know, my Cobra, if I hit it off the top end here, I know exactly why I've hit it for a bad shot here. I just, yeah, just didn't really like it. So 2 out of 5. Now, looks, 5 out of 5. Best looking club. I mean, the whole look of the black and red, and I love the red face as well, to be honest. It's such a gorgeous club. I mean, Taylormade have always made really nice looking clubs. So for me, 5 out of 5. Beautiful, love it. There you go. Let's move on. All right, forgiveness. Now, this obviously is their more sort of forgiving model, but it isn't their most forgiving model. Their most forgiving model is obviously the HD, the high draw version. So for me, the forgiveness is about 3.5 out of 5. Very solid, but obviously if you're completely missing the middle of the face and you're all over the place, you will get punished. And this is something that sort of TaylorMade realised, that with the carbon they're not quite there yet, because this year with the carbon they've got that sort of, I've forgotten the slogan now, but carbon forgiveness or something like that, because the idea, they knew that they hadn't quite got it this year when it came down to forgiveness and off centre hit, so they really pushed that this year. So not bad, 3.5, but not great for something like this. Maybe I would have liked maybe a little bit more forgiveness, but you know, if you're hitting it around the middle of the face or near the middle of the face, you're not going to be that punished. Obviously, if you are, then maybe look for the HD version, which is going to also be the more forgiving version. So now let's get into price. So I've given the price 3.5 out of 5. Now, personally for me, if you can get it for under 200 quid, then that'll be a 4 out of 5, 100%, like I've done, because you can, if you keep your eye out. I mean, this one's, you know, got a few little scuffs, but it's not in that bad a shape. If you keep your eye out, you can get a good deal, you know, and you can get it for under £200, under $250, and it's well worth it, I think, to give it a go at that price. Now, generally though, the range of these really range from sort of like the really the 225 to £225 up to the sort of £255, which is sort of the plus version, which I think is a bit more sought after. So that's around like $280 up to about that $318. So for that price, for a TaylorMade club, it's very good shaft. It's still not the end of the world. So, you know, I would still give it that 3.5 out of 5. And there you go. So there's the scale now, but there is one thing I will say about looking to buy this on the second-hand market, and that is, let's be honest with this club. If you read all the reviews and check it out, this is pretty much a Sim 2 with a red face. It is. It really is. The Sim 2 was such a great club. The Sim was such a great club. You know, I've spoken to a chap down the range once who supposedly had a friend in TaylorMade. I don't know how true this is. And he said that, you know, the distance and the sort of the jumps and drivers from TaylorMade hasn't been that big since the M2 in 2016. They sort of cracked it with the M2 in 2016, and it hasn't really extended since. So, and I think that's proven by the fact that Justin Rose, you know, former world number one, who just recently won, was it this year, recently won one of the PGA tours, you know, he keeps on that M2, his old M2 keeps on coming in and out of the bag. He's had it in the bag for quite a few tournaments this year, and then he sort of has a paradigm as well, but it keeps on coming in there. So it just shows you that the older TaylorMade clubs, such as the M2, are still fantastic clubs. And that's the thing, like, why possibly spend 200? Don't get me wrong, I think the price point's very good for this, but why spend this when, you know, you can buy maybe an M2 for under £100 easily, you know, under $125. You can easily get a good one of them. It might perform just as well as this, and that's the issue that I possibly have with TaylorMade at the moment. And the fact as well is this, you know, it's going for exactly the same, pretty much the same price as Sim 2. I mean, I've seen Sim 2s go for £245, $300. online. And then if you're going on the golf bidders and stuff like that, then you're looking for over £300 on these, really, if you go into a proper pro shop, and then you go, ooh. So yeah, so there you go. Do I think it's worth a go overall? I do, but I think if you want to save yourself some money, you can go over to Taylormade and you'll still be really happy and you'll still get really good results. So there you go. Now for me, will this make it in my bag? Is it going to replace my Cobra LTDX? Now for distance wise, not necessarily. Like I said, I might get a stiff shaft and have a little tinker with it, but at the moment, even though it's 15 yards shorter, maybe 10 yards shorter, maybe even 6 yards shorter in some shots, I'm consistently hitting the fairway with it. And I think it's down to the fact that it is a regular shaft for me, because I know with a regular shaft, I don't feel I have to really go for it to get good results. So I concentrate more on my swing, and therefore I'm just getting it better and I'm lining it better. If I need to hit a drive and it's a short fairway and there's a tree there and there's a tree there and I need to hit the middle, I can face it and I can actually get it to go where I want to go. So at the moment, this is in the bag. I'm going to have a fiddle with it, I think. Maybe put up to 12 degrees. Maybe get a stiff shaft in it and see if I can get the distance of the Cobra. Because don't get me wrong, the Cobra is very consistent with that as well. But at the moment, I'm enjoying just hitting pretty much every fairway with it. So there you go. There's my review of the Taylormade Stealth. Put down in the comments below, if you guys have tried the Stealth, maybe even the Stealth 2, what do you think of them? Especially if you've had older Taylormade clubs in your bag before, such as the M2, and how much, have they really improved? Do you think, are you happy that you picked it up, or do you sometimes go, well, hold on, my M2 or M3 or M4 or M6 was just as good as this? So let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to give this video a like and do subscribe to the channel, guys. More subscribers, more videos I can show you. So there you go. I'll see you guys next week. Enjoy your week of golf. Bye-bye.